What's up guys, I'm Nico of CamCrunch, and in today's video I'm going to talk about your DSLR's metering modes. Now before I start, I just want to talk a little bit about the meter that's built into your camera. The meter is basically something in your camera that reads the light. It tries to average the light out to middle gray, and from there it will, give you settings from that. Now, the meter doesn't always, tell you what the right exposure should be, because in the end it's your choice on what your settings should be, but it sort of gives you a guideline and sort of leads you on the right track. And for the most part, your meter does a very good job. So when you're using auto and program and aperture priority and shutter priority, it's actually your meter that's telling your camera what settings to do. And when you're using manual, you actually have the meter in the back or on the top LCD that tells you what settings it thinks you should use to get the proper exposure. So there are 3 metering modes that you need to be aware of, and they're called different things depending on what camera brand you're using, but they all basically do the same thing. And the first one is basically your zone meter, or I think it's also called the evaluative meter, which meters the whole scene and tries to average it out to middle gray to get the proper exposure. And this is what your camera is set on by default, and I encourage you to really put your meter setting back to this every time you use it, because this is sort of what you'll be using most of the time. And again, what it does is it meters the whole frame and it tries to get the proper exposure. It tries to average everything out to middle gray, and those are the settings that it will give you. There's also the center weighted meter, which again does the same thing, but this time in a small area in the center of your frame. And what is this good for? Well, let's say you have like your subject in the center, let's say it's a portrait, and you want them really nicely exposed, and you don't really care too much about how the background will look like, because you really just want to focus on how your subject itself is exposed. You can use the center weighted meter, so you only get that meter reading around the center, expose for that, and then take your shot. Now the last one is your spot meter, and this takes it even further by only metering the exact spot in the middle of your frame. And well, what is this good for? If you want to take a meter reading for just an exact area, let's say you're taking a picture of a portrait and you just want their skin nicely exposed, or even just a certain area of their skin, you want to make sure it doesn't get blown out, you want to make sure it doesn't just go completely white, you can meter for that specific area using that middle autofocus point. You meter for that, and if that is not the area that where you want to put it, you can either lock your exposure, or if you're a manual, you just set your exposure once it's metered, and then you can recompose and then take your image there. So those are the 3 metering modes that your camera has, and I hope this video helped you understand them further. And yeah, please like the video, favorite the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.